Do not trade Triston Casas. The talented first baseman is letting some trade rumors get into his head, and it would be an absolute blow for the Boston Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is all completely free. So you might as well tune in because Locked On is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show. Unfortunately, it is the beginning of the week, which we never really enjoy or like, but I'm hoping that some competitive playoff baseball gets us through the week, which, by the way, is my last official week before I am married. I am getting married this upcoming Saturday, and I am so excited about it. It's going to be the most amazing day ever. And on that note, I am going to be taking some time off to enjoy a nice honeymoon in Grand Cayman, which, by the way, if you have been there, I am open to any suggestions that you might have of things to do there. We are very much looking forward to a nice trip. So with that being said, the Locked On Red Sox postcast show that takes place during the season where Steve Lennox hosts a show after every single game, just breaking down what happened in that game. He has you covered. This show will still be dropping every day for those couple weeks that I am gone. Steve will be taking over and acting as me during that time. Try not to miss me too much. I will still be available on social media in case you want to talk to me about anything going on with the Red Sox or even other Boston teams. I am here, and I am here still the rest of the week with you before that all happens. And we sit here and wonder what this offseason is going to look like for Boston. Is it truly going to be a big offseason? The Red Sox did make some changes to their coaching staff. So that's step one in terms of heading in the right direction. One of the most notable moves that they made from a coaching perspective was getting rid of the bullpen coach, which was huge because the Red Sox bullpen was a huge weakness in 2024, one of their biggest downfalls that they had, if not the biggest. And so that's a big move that they made to hopefully help get this team back on track. But what is the rest of this offseason going to look like? And one of the craziest things that I saw recently was a headline that said the Red Sox are already disproving empty promises that this was the offseason to get serious for the fans. Now, in a lot of situations, I might agree with that. And all of last offseason proved that to be true, that they were kind of going against what they were saying they were going to do. But we can't say that yet because free agency hasn't opened up yet. The Red Sox cannot make moves until after the World Series is over. So beginning of November is when all of the craziness should start, and the Red Sox should hopefully be one of those teams that's really aggressive in terms of making moves. And I wanted to just make that clear that they don't really have another choice right now. They can't go out and make all these crazy moves right now in the next couple weeks. So anybody who feels like, oh, they haven't done anything yet, it's because they can't do anything yet. Nobody has done anything yet. So obviously giving them the benefit of the doubt from that perspective and trying to give them the benefit of the doubt in terms of what they said and hoping that they actually go with what they said this offseason and don't go against that and claim they're going to make moves and not actually make moves. But when they make moves, one of those moves better not be to trade Triston Casas, who is a key part of this team and somebody who the Red Sox have made so clear for so long will be part of the future. his 2024 season was certainly a forgettable one. I mean, he was sidelined for 4 months due to a rib injury and only played in 63 games, batting .241 in those contests. And the Red Sox missing the playoffs for the third straight year obviously is another reason to forget the 2024 season. So he would like to move on to 2025 at this point, and he would like to look forward to 2025 with the Red Sox, but that might be difficult for him right now because his name was floated around and named in a trade proposal by the Athletics' Ken Rosenthal last month, which has led to a ton of online discussions consisting of people weighing the idea of the Red Sox basically hypothetically dealing him for a position of need, as in pitching or a right-handed power bat, something along those lines. Rosenthal, when he said this, basically suggested that the Red Sox deal Casas to the Seattle Mariners for a starting pitcher and then sign a right-handed hitter over the offseason to basically take his place. There have been no reported rumors of the Red Sox actually being interested in trading away the 24-year-old first baseman, but he did respond to the noise earlier this week. He was talking in an interview about what was said and basically said he wants to stay and win in Boston, but he also didn't sound like somebody who's been promised that he won't be traded to another team either. He said, I think that the team and the organization should continue to strive for a championship, whether I'm in the plans or not. I don't know what the front office has in store for this offseason in terms of restructuring the roster to try to become a playoff team. I want to be a part of the plans to make that happen, but if not, and they want to seek an outside source for me to try to bolster the roster, that's well within their ability. First of all, how powerful is that? This kid basically going on record and saying, I want to stay in Boston and I want to try to win in Boston, but I understand that this is a business. And if them winning comes at the expense of me and it means moving me to a different team, then so be it. That is what it is. And that's such a selfless way to go about it because obviously he wants to stay here. Obviously, he would be bummed if he's not here, but he understands the business side of it and understands that if the Red Sox are trying to get back to the playoffs, not everybody on this current roster is going to be on the roster next year. I absolutely love that. And if people thought that he should have been traded before, that alone should be a reason for you to not want him traded. That's a very selfless guy who comes into this clubhouse every day ready to give 100% and genuinely cares about playing in Boston and wants to be here and wants to win. Why would the Red Sox want to trade somebody who has that kind of attitude? So I thought that quote was very powerful, that he wasn't being all about himself and was basically acknowledging that he wants to be here, but understands the challenges that come with being a professional baseball front office and having to make those hard decisions. The Red Sox at least attempted to sign Casas to a contract extension before this past season. He did tell the Boston Globe that he turned down multiple offers made by the club, but would be open to re-entering discussions at any point during the season. He won't become a free agent until the end of the decade, but the Red Sox have made it a point to lock up other young talent on a discount because of their youth, like Brian Bayo and Cedar Rafaela. So it's not really surprising that the Red Sox have tried to come to terms with Casas so early on in his career. It's unknown, though, now if the Red Sox have had contract discussions with Casas and his party since last winter. But nevertheless, he sounds like someone who's accepted that his future is out of his control. He said, do I want to be in Boston? Of course, because that's all I know. But if I've moved on from, that's fine. I understand why. There's no need to explain much further than that. So he basically said, I understand the reason why if they do decide to trade me. And what also struck me about that is he didn't say anything that said, I'm confident I'm not going to be moved. So obviously the Red Sox haven't gone to him and said, we are not trading you. You're here to stay. And I'm sure they internally feel like they want to trade him or not. They know what way they want to go with that. And I don't necessarily know how much of a factor this actually is in their offseason decision making. I mean, is this just based on a Ken Rosenthal report? Like, did he say that for a reason? Like, is he hearing rumors around the Red Sox organization that they might be open to listening to calls on Casas? Or was he just proposing a trade idea? Because if he was just proposing that maybe they move Casas for somebody, like a pitcher, then I wouldn't read too much into it. And I'm not really believing that the Red Sox would move on from Casas as a team that over the last few seasons has been so focused on the future and building the right pieces to be able to have a championship caliber team. Why would they want to move a cornerstone piece in Triston Casas and then be unsure what the first baseman situation is even going to be? That doesn't really sound like it checks out and aligns with the Red Sox goals moving forward. So I am hard pressed to believe that Ken Rosenthal actually heard something around the Red Sox clubhouse and around the front office that indicates that Casas might be moved, and he might have just been trying to propose something that he feels could make sense. But I don't think it makes sense at all. Do not move on from him. Yes, he had a season worth forgetting in 2024, primarily because of his injury, but look at his rookie season before that and look at the potential that he has for 2025. And if he's healthy, I think that bar for Casas and the expectations should be super high. So I am very much against trading him. And if the Red Sox do decide that they want to move on from him, I think they'll regret it. I definitely don't want that. Coming up, another infielder who has had a tough go of it since being in Boston is Vaughn Grissom. Is he going to be the starting second baseman in 2025? That's being discussed next. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids. What do these have in common? You're probably buying a ton again this upcoming summer. But don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all of your summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Ibotta has come in handy a lot for me with shopping for the honeymoon and being able to save on a lot because of the money you save with it. So if you're planning a big trip to maybe a tropical place or something soon, don't hesitate to head to Ibotta today. Triston Casas should not be traded. I don't know how many times I have to make this clear. He is a cornerstone piece of a Boston Red Sox team that is looking to hopefully get back into contention in 2025. And hopefully the front office is serious when they say they are going to do their best to make the moves that make sense to get the Red Sox back on that path moving forward. And when you're looking at cornerstone pieces, what is the second base situation? Because you have a cornerstone piece in Casas at first. You have a cornerstone piece in Devers at third base, which is obviously a safe assumption because of that massive contract extension he signed. You have a guy in Trevor Story who likely is going to play shortstop until your cornerstone piece there and Marcelo Meyer comes up. But do they have a cornerstone piece right now at second base? That is the real question, because when the Red Sox traded Chris Sale to the Braves for Vaughn Grissom last offseason, their intention was for Grissom to play second base. They wanted him to be the starting second baseman that they would have for the future, the guy that they could rely on to play that position regularly. Then there was a setback in that plan because he got injured and wasn't able to play consistently. So then they had to find themselves making ends meet at second base and throwing different guys in there just to try to make it work because they didn't have a defined player to play that position. So now we head into this offseason and people are wondering who is going to play second base in 2025. Can Vaughn Grissom stay healthy enough to do it? Can he be effective enough? Have we seen enough from him to trust that he can be the guy moving forward that the Red Sox can rely on at that position? And honestly, not having that consistent presence at second base has been a big theme for the Red Sox since the injuries began mounting for Dustin Pedroia nearly a decade ago. I mean, legitimately, they have not had a consistent, talented second baseman in a while. And that's something that's imperative for the Red Sox heading into next season, is having somebody lock down the second base job. So because they thought Vaughn Grissom was going to be that guy, you might think that there's a high chance that he is that guy heading into 2025. And that's totally fair. And definitely there is a good possibility of it. But because his first season in Boston didn't go according to plan, where he struggled mightily at the plate in his limited big league action and ended up being demoted to AAA for 2 full months, and also on top of that, the injuries, he did play well when he was in Worcester, so that wasn't as much of an issue. But because of all of those factors, it's hard to make the conclusive decision that he's going to be starting the season at second base. And even more so to that, Red Sox top prospect Kristian Campbell has been making his way through the minors and making a case to take over the second base gig. He was the 4th round pick that the Red Sox used as compensation for losing Xander Bogaerts in free agency, and he won several year-end awards after a breakout offensive season where he moved his way quickly through the farm system. It may very well come down to Grissom and Campbell for the starting job, and it's too early to say for sure which one of them has the edge. Ultimately, it's going to probably come down to how they both do in spring training, but I could see them settling for Grissom being the starting second baseman due to lack of experience for Kristian Campbell, and them maybe not being sure if he'll be ready to play at the major league level come 2025. Because yes, he's been moving through the farm system really quickly, but that leap from AAA to the majors can be drastic for some people because there's so much more pressure and so much more intensity, and you have significantly more eyes on you when you get to that point, that it can be really nerve-wracking and hard for a player to handle that type of pressure. I mean, look at Bobby Dahlbeck. He's a great example of this. A player who hits really well in Worcester and is a king in AAA, but then when he gets called up to the majors, he struggles massively offensively and can't get anything going with his bat. And I'm inclined to believe that the pressure that comes with being in the majors, playing at Fenway Park in front of a fan base and Red Sox fans that is super intense and not very forgiving towards players when they are not performing, can get in his head. And I feel like that could be the case with a lot of players, that they get into their heads when they get called up to the majors and it ends up not working out as well for them. So who's to say that wouldn't happen for Kristian Campbell? So that's something that I could see the Red Sox being held back on, is his lack of experience and the fact that he hasn't played in the majors yet. So they don't want to call him up and have him lose confidence and then ruin his career when he's on a really special trajectory right now. So I could see them leaning towards Grissom to start at second base because they want to give Campbell some more time in the minors to make sure he's really settled in and really has what it takes and is ready before he gets called up to the majors. Because the last thing you want to do is call a player up prematurely, have their confidence get destroyed, and then it affects them the rest of their career. And then they're not giving the Red Sox the type of productivity that they want. So in that regard, it's important to give him an opportunity to really fully showcase what he can do, gain all the confidence that he can in AAA, and then maybe they call him up if Grissom gets injured or he's not performing and Campbell is continuing to perform at the minor league level. So that's what I could see them leaning towards. He batted .330 with a .997 OPS across 3 levels of the minors this past year, leading all affiliated batters with at least 500 plate appearances in OPS. So, I mean, it was no joke seeing his numbers in 2024. I mean, he definitely excelled in the minors, which is really compelling and could draw the Red Sox a little bit more interested in having him start at second base. whereas Grissom had a 190 average, 246 on base percentage, and 214 slugging slash line in 114 major league plate appearances this year. Though he did get hot for the final month of the season in AAA, and then when he got called up to the majors, he did start to put some nice hits together at the plate. So he left us wanting a little bit more. So I think that could help his case a little bit because, again, just like that thought process we just went over with Campbell, the thought process with Grissom is health a concern for him? And if health isn't a concern for him and he's able to stay healthy, is he going to be able to consistently hit well because he hasn't played a full 162 game season on the major league roster? So that's another factor for him is fatigue going to hold him back in the later half of the season? Is he going to be able to be relied on to play well in those games and in the grind of the middle of the season in July and August when the Red Sox are trying to maybe fight for a playoff spot? Is he going to be able to be reliable at second base? And are we going to get more of what we saw in that last month of the season from him? Or are we going to see a guy who is struggling at the plate and isn't exactly giving the Red Sox everything that they need? So, I mean, it's a tough decision. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer because there are question marks that come with either of these guys. But I do think from a comfort standpoint, it makes sense for the Red Sox to maybe start Grissom at second base and then see how he does. Because what if he goes off? What if we see a version of Grissom in April that we saw at the end of the season in 2024? Then we're seeing a guy who can produce regularly at second base, and it gives Kristian Campbell a lot more time for his development, and it takes that pressure off of him of feeling like he has to come up to the majors and perform at a high level right away. So I could see the Red Sox leaning in that direction more so because Grissom has the edge based on experience. But am I concerned about second base? Yeah, 100%. I mean, they don't have a solidified, bona fide second baseman. And that's something that could affect them negatively next year. The question marks surrounding that position are very apparent, and it's been a position of need for a while, and the Red Sox haven't gone and addressed that. So in that regard, I am a little bit concerned about what that's going to look like for them next year. But it'll be fun too to see how both of these players do in spring training, because I'm curious to see which one of them steps up more in the big moments, which one of them puts together some more competitive numbers, because I feel like the Red Sox are going to be closely monitoring that situation to see which one of them comes out stronger after spring training. And if their numbers are basically the same coming out of spring training, then I feel like they would give Grissom the edge because of experience. But if Kristian Campbell goes out there and produces at a really high level in the spring, and then Grissom isn't really putting up those competitive numbers, then maybe they do give Campbell a chance early on because they feel more confident in what he can do when he's producing out there. So that is one of the biggest storylines to me heading into the 2025 season, is which one of these guys is going to step up for the Red Sox, who's going to be the guy that they are going to lean to start at second base in 2025. I mean, it's a tough decision, and they want to put themselves in the best place possible to succeed. So this upcoming spring training is going to be big for those two players, and one of the biggest things to look out for when it comes to this Red Sox team. Craig Breslow had some things to say about Chris Sale and the Red Sox trading him away. Does he regret it? You'll find out next. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. This is a great opportunity for you, and we're already in week 6 right now of the NFL season. So if you haven't checked this out yet, it will pass before you know it. So I highly recommend you checking it out, because you can win big, so many good deals here, and be able to adjust some bets around as things go. So make sure you're taking the advantage to win money, because who wouldn't want that? Here on Locked On Red Sox, I've talked a lot about Craig Breslow and the Red Sox system and what exactly they need to do in order to get to be back to being a competitive team in 2025 that fights for a playoff spot. And Breslow and Sam Kennedy both have acknowledged that it's time to give the fans what they deserve, which is a playoff caliber team. Now, he mentioned some things about the aftermath of last offseason's trade. We just talked about infielder Vaughn Grissom and whether he will end up being the starting second baseman next year. But it was a pretty surprising move in the offseason when they traded away Chris Sale to the Braves for him. In the grand scheme of things, it made sense why they did it because they were looking to get younger, looking to get some future pieces, and they were probably really intrigued by Grissom and felt like in the long run it would benefit them more to have him as opposed to going and having Sale on the team for maybe one more season. So in that regard, in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense, but at the time it was really surprising to people. It marked the first major and most aggressive move of Breslow's debut as Chief Baseball Officer and produced some unforeseen results. I mean, it showed that Breslow isn't afraid to move people because that certainly did make a big statement when he said, all right, we're moving Chris Sale. And ultimately, looking back, following the organization's third consecutive postseason swing and miss and fifth in the last 6 seasons, he did offer an honest admission of the swap between Sale and Grissom. He said, I think the framework at the time was sound. That was a decision that was made with the longer term focus in mind as much as 2024. It absolutely hurts that Chris Sale was not pitching the way that he had all season in a Red Sox uniform this year. And it's really easy to play the what if game. I think we have to evaluate the process, evaluate the decision that it did, and also recognize we are now in a different moment in time. And exclusively looking at the future is not something that we should be prepared to do as we embark on this offseason heading into 2025. Otherwise, I think fans would be rightfully frustrated with this continued push off into the future of the window of contention. So he basically did admit that it hurts that the way Chris Sale pitched, likely winning the National League Cy Young Award this year for the Braves, didn't happen in a Red Sox uniform. But there were injury concerns with him. And as it is, I mean, he wasn't available in the Braves playoff series that they played against the Padres, in which they got eliminated from the postseason. That goes back to the fact that he isn't really able to stay healthy as much as he would like to and as much as the team that he's on would like for him to. But he did overall have a healthy season with Atlanta, a big back season, and dominated. And Breslow did admit that it hurt, but also tried to explain at the time why they did it. And it was because they were focused more on the future. And it seemed to be a bit of a wake-up call for him that the Red Sox again missed the playoffs and finished the season at exactly 500, being a very average team. And seeing how well Chris Sale did and thinking about, oh, we could have had him in a Boston Red Sox uniform. If he had pitched every 5 days and pitched the way that he had in a Braves uniform, that could have been a playoff team because they would have won quite a few more games with him out there. So I think he sees that in hindsight. Like, you never know ultimately what would have happened if he stayed in Boston. There was no way to know what numbers he was going to produce in Atlanta. But it helped Breslow to see that they can't be so future focused that they're giving up players who are going to be key for the now and them trying to fight for a playoff spot now. Sale and Grissom went opposite directions to begin their stints in Atlanta and Boston. Sale turned back the clock, returning to his old all-star form in a Braves uniform by going 18-3, which was tied for the most wins in MLB with a 2.38 ERA, the best of any pitcher in baseball in 2024. The 35-year-old buried the injury-prone concerns that followed him out of Boston and surged back to an ace-caliber pitcher, while Grissom battled the injured list throughout the season with the Red Sox and was limited to only 31 appearances in that 105 at-bats that I talked about earlier. In hindsight, the trade ended up working out tremendously for the Braves. Obviously, it got them to the postseason. They did lose, but he wasn't available. And realistically, the Red Sox did have cause to shop him, but it's just unfortunate that Grissom wasn't able to contribute because it's just tough being patient for that, because what happens if Grissom isn't able to contribute, then that fail looks like a really bad trade for the Red Sox in the grand scheme of things, moving Chris Sale. So we have to hope that Grissom comes in 2025 and is able to perform at a high level, because the Red Sox obviously saw something in him that they really liked. And let's not forget, the Red Sox still were taking on a lot of Chris Sale's salary in 2024. So they basically paid a lot of his salary for him to go and be the Cy Young winner for another team. I mean, that hurts. Like, that's definitely a tough blow to think about as a Red Sox fan. And if Grissom goes out and performs, then it won't really be as much of an issue, because it'll be like, okay, like, it was a win-win because Grissom in the long run is getting us what we need from him. We won't see a lot of those effects until further down the road, but I'm really hoping he has a big season in 2025 where he's not injured and he's able to produce, because then it will look a little bit better for the Red Sox. But at least Breslow knows that it hurts and knows it was tough for Red Sox fans to see Sale go out there and absolutely ball out with another team. Well, they had to sit here and hope that this guy could get healthy in Vaughn Grissom, because that just wasn't happening all season long. So hopefully they can turn the page next year. He can come back and be a dominant force in the Red Sox lineup in 2025, and the Red Sox will able to be a team that makes the playoffs. In order for them to do that, you just have to keep the faith, like I always say. I do appreciate you making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully, aka Paul Sullivan, brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every aspect of the playoff picture. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I love Sully. He's so energetic and really knowledgeable about everything going on in baseball. So make sure you check out his show after this so that you can stay caught up and in the loop on the teams that are in the NLCS and ALCS. As always, though, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.